Welcome to Scriptmas Day 11. Today we are building your writing plan. So you know what phase of your writing process you're in. You've got your hit list of things that you need to figure out before you go to draft. You've reclaimed your time, your energy is mapped. Now comes the moment of truth, actually putting your writing time in your calendar and protecting it. In the next few minutes, we're gonna go over how to create a personalized writing schedule that works for your actual life and the project that you're writing. And when I say protect it, I mean protect it. You have to build boundaries around your writing time if this is something that you want to prioritize and if you actually want to complete your project. Put it in your calendar, mark yourself busy, and try to create some rules for yourself on when you're allowed to reschedule your sessions and when you just need to say no to the invitation to the party by the person who you don't even really know. I like to think of our scheduled writing sessions as like doctor's appointments. You can reschedule them, but you shouldn't cancel them. You need to go to the doctor. If writing is something you value, we have to treat it like something you value. So step one is matching each part of your writing schedule to the phase of writing. If you're in the blue sky or ideation phase, you need a lot of thinking time, not necessarily typing time. This can literally be like while you're on walks, in the shower. It can happen anywhere, anytime, because all you really need is your brain. And then you just have to make sure you have a capture tool to note whatever beautiful ideas come to mind as soon as possible. Voice memos, a notebook, the brain dump document that we created, things like that. So in this phase, your sessions can be shorter, but more frequent because they can really happen anywhere, anytime. When you're in the phase of your blue sky, at some point, you're gonna need to collate all of your disparate ideas into a document that you can pull from to start breaking your story. So at that time, you're probably gonna want some longer sessions where you can get a lot of typing time in and be near a computer or an iPad or something like that. When you're actually breaking your story, you wanna consider what methods you're using to actually track your beats and organize everything. If you have a digital setup, then you can also take this on the road with you. But if you're more of a tactile person and you have a whiteboard in your office or a corkboard with index cards or a bunch of Post-it notes on the wall, you need to keep in mind that you're gonna need time at home or wherever that space is for you to get your work done. When you're in the breaking phase, I advise your sessions to be a little bit longer if you can help it. So if you're really busy, I would try to make a concerted effort to carve out longer sessions, either in your mornings or evenings or on the weekends when you can. Now, once you finish breaking, you have the full picture of your story and you've typed it up into a beat sheet that you can bring along with you, hopefully. So when you're in the outline phase, you can really just go scene by scene, which means we're back to things being nice and bite-sized and portable. Outlining is really easy to break up into chunks because we're going scene by scene. So you could have a few longer sessions and just bang out your outline in a day or two, or you can try to break this up over several weeks into smaller writing sessions. Drafting, same thing, we can go scene by scene, but you should plan based on how quickly you want to finish your draft and how long it tends to take you to actually write your pages. Again, if you're going to be writing your draft during your day, stealing 5 or 10 minutes here and there, you're gonna want an extremely portable setup using a software that either syncs or a laptop or a tablet that you can bring with you during your workday. Now, the revision phase is where things get a little tricky. I do recommend having in mind people that you're going to send your draft to for notes a few weeks ahead of when you'll actually send it to them so that you can get an idea of timing and how long they'll need to read. The nice thing is that when you send your draft out for notes, you're gonna have a few days of a break in between. But since revisions can often be really time intensive and require you to track threads of story consistently throughout your whole draft, it's usually better to dedicate large blocks of time to this, depending on what type of revision you're doing. So for this particular phase, I wouldn't necessarily plan ahead, but I would give yourself a set number of weeks or months that you want to use for the revision process. Have an idea of who you're sending your draft to and how long your turnaround is for them to read and get notes back to you. A general hit list and revision plan of what types of passes you want to do on your project. Once you have a draft and you're actually able to look at it, then you can kind of figure out how much work you have to do on it, and you can plan the rest of your writing sessions accordingly. So based off of this information, the phase that we're in, and how we plan to go about our writing process, which are all things that we've been figuring out over the last few days, you can make a general writing schedule, giving yourself deadlines and benchmarks to hit over the next few months. For the current project I'm working on, my goal is to get an approval on my concept for my agents by the beginning of December, have a fleshed out pilot story and beat sheet by the end of December, an outline by mid-January, and a draft by the end of January. Based on my schedule and what's going on in my life, it's a half-hour pilot that makes sense for me. Step 2 is actually blocking time in our calendar for our writing sessions. So you've already decided your writing cadence and either how often you want to write per week or how many hours per week you want to write. Whatever type of cadence you decided, we're going to start planning it in our schedule. If you set a cadence of number of sessions per week, we're going to look at our schedule to figure out what the ideal times of day are based on the results of our time and energy audit. So say you work a corporate job and you have an all hands meeting every Monday and a team meeting every Friday. Your busiest work days might be Tuesdays and Wednesdays, but Thursdays are pretty chill and Fridays you get to leave a little early. I might schedule my larger writing sessions for Thursday and Friday, small bite-sized sessions for maybe Tuesday and Wednesday, and one longer session on the weekend when I'm not working. Because based on the energy audit for this imaginary corporate girly, she's really drained at the end of the day on Mondays and Wednesdays, but the other days of the week feels like she has the brain space to focus. So by looking at our time audit and our energy audit, we can pick which days of the week and generally what time of the day is best to schedule our sessions. To make this a habit and a ritual, we want to try to keep this as consistent as we can, but we do want to leave room for a little bit of flexibility. So say work is really crazy one day and she misses her Tuesday session, no big deal, we'll reschedule that for another day. This is why I love blocking everything in a calendar, because if you need to leave your session early, you can just take the remainder of the time and throw it in another day that you have available to write. So if you're like me and your schedule changes every single week, you can pick just one day of the week to plan your next week of writing sessions. Then you can make a planning day, and while you drink your coffee in the morning, you can plan your writing sessions for the next week. So you can schedule in those big chunks of time that you know you'll be writing, but we also want to create some general guidelines for ourselves of when we can kind of borrow writing time throughout our day based on those pockets of time that we established in our time audit. So for example, I may have only 3 scheduled writing sessions planned a week based on my available time, but I might make a rule for myself that whenever I stop for a coffee break, I do 5 to 10 minutes while I'm drinking my coffee. Or during my commute, if I'm ever able to sit on the train, I'll pull out my iPad and try to get a little work done on the subway. Again, I'm not trying to burn you out. You do not need to do this every extra moment you have during your week, but we're trying to make writing as easy as possible for you. So having these general guidelines in the back of your head of what you could do during your day means that whenever you do have the time, you're able to pull out your phone or your tablet or what have you and get a little bit of work done on your project. Again, this is going to be a strategy for the busiest among us, the people who are really trying to hustle and get their scripts done, even on top of a really hectic 9 to 5. If you don't have a deadline, you're not pressed for time, there's no rush, then cool, take your coffee break. A side note on scheduling our sessions and our overall calendar, we kind of want to work backwards from deadlines if you have them. For example, a lot of fellowships and labs have deadlines in May. So if May 1st is our deadline, then the few weeks before that, we want to just be doing polishes and final checks on our script, which means we probably want to do our last round of big revisions by mid-March, early April, which means I should send my script to my readers to get feedback at the beginning of March, which means I should have a draft by the end of February. You see where I'm going with this? So if you have a major deadline coming up you're working towards, you can use that to work backwards and adjust your calendar accordingly to make sure you finish on time. Another note on pacing your deadlines: if you're a beginner or you're breaking into a new medium or genre, you're probably going to need more time both to write and revise, because there's a learning curve. This is new for you, and that's completely okay. The beautiful thing about making a plan like this is that we can give ourselves the gift of time. We can be realistic about our deadlines and our goals, and we can plan ahead so that we don't feel rushed and we don't end up sending out a messy draft. Okay, so step 4 is setting task goals for each session. Now, this is not going to work for everybody, but this is specifically for people who feel overwhelmed by the concept of writing and need to get granular about the next steps that they're taking. Not to get too much into the psychology, but basically clarifying the tasks that we have and breaking down the big task of writing a script as small and minute as possible, and being clear about what we're doing in each session reduces the cognitive load of like the scary write a big script goal. It makes it easier for us to get started and work our way through the process without the overwhelm. So if you're a person that often feels very overwhelmed by the idea of writing a big script or lost as to what to do next, this is what you're gonna do. Again, if this is not you, ignore this. You don't have to do this. We're gonna set task goals for each writing session. So the big list that we made the other day of all of the things we have to figure out about our story before we break, and that checklist of all the things we have to do for our pilot, we're gonna assign certain tasks to certain writing sessions based on how much time we have to do it. Think about how long the session is, where you'll probably be during the session, what tools you'll have available to you, all of that stuff. So for example, if I'm going to have 45 minutes, but I'm gonna be sitting in the back of a car because we're on a road trip, I'm gonna wanna do work that's portable on my iPad, or research that I can do on my phone or reading a book, that kind of thing. Take in the whole picture. So all you're gonna do is assign tasks from your big hit list to your writing sessions each week. You'll keep going until you finish your hit list and you're ready to break and then draft your script. This is gonna take the overwhelm of the blank page out of the equation and give you a specific thing to start thinking about at the beginning of each of your writing sessions so that you're never lost or trying to figure out what to do next. Nice, right? Now the important thing is to stay flexible. So say you're supposed to be brainstorming your B story today, but you just got a really great idea of how to change something in your A story. That's okay. Go change your A story and you can just move the task of working on your B story to your next session. These guidelines are there to reduce the overwhelm, not to cage you in. Doing it this way also gives you a pretty solid idea of where you are in your process and if you're ahead or behind schedule, if you're working with a deadline. So when you're actually in the break figuring out the beats, you may break down your sessions of, session 1 is 2 hours long. Maybe I'll just break sequence 1 for my A story, etc. So you can kind of subdivide it based on storyline or sequence or act if that's helpful for you. So like I said, this is supposed to reduce the overwhelm, but this is also going to be especially helpful for people who are really busy and need to know what elements they can work on in the small pockets of time they have throughout their day. If you only have 10 or 20 minutes here and there, you don't want to spend 10 of those 20 minutes figuring out what you need to work on, combing through a sea of questions that you have and trying to figure out, maybe I should think about this today. No, what about this? We don't have time for that. Another note to keep in mind is that we need to reframe what writing actually is. Writing isn't always sitting down and generating pages. It could be brainstorming and thinking. It can be researching your script or your characters. It could be watching films in your genre for inspiration. So some sessions we're gonna be butt in chair writing, and some sessions are gonna be walking around daydreaming, and those are both productive and both helpful. So even if you're not physically sitting down at your laptop, your brain is still working on your script. So the absolute last step of this process is to make a procrastination menu. These are things that aren't writing or actively thinking about your project, but they're still useful for your project. This could be watching a fun documentary related to your subject matter, making a playlist that your characters would listen to when they're driving in their car, creating mood boards, free-writing character backstories, or sample scenes that are just writing exercises for yourself, going out to people watch and eavesdropping for voices that sound similar to your characters, creating a dream cast for your project, or making a fun pitch deck. Sometimes we don't have the analytical brain or generative brain to sit down and actively work on our project, but that doesn't mean we can't do things that are, in my opinion, kind of fun, that help move the needle without being active writing time. This is really helpful for ADHDers like me who sometimes feel very resistant to the idea of working on our project, but don't want to let ourselves down completely. If we have a list of things that we can kind of just jump to at a moment's notice, you can do it for a few minutes, and then when you feel ready to go back to your project, you can pivot back. So here's a reminder. The perfect writing schedule and plan doesn't exist. There's just the plan that works for you right now in this moment, this week, and we have to stay flexible enough to adjust as we go. All we can do is act on the information that we have. So we're making the plan now, and as we go, you're going to want to take note of what is working and what's not. Does your schedule feel overwhelming? Do you feel like you scheduled too much? Do you need to pull back? Do you want to adjust your deadline? It's okay to stay flexible, but not having a plan in the first place is just going to set you up for failure. So all we can do now is adjust the plan that we've made. So today is a big day. You have a lot of thinking to do about your calendar in the next few months of your life. So go ahead and do the assignments for today, and you can even join the live stream of me doing this exact process for my project. And tomorrow we will talk about accountability systems to set yourself up for success. See you tomorrow.